works. We'll see. Don't know what's going on with my bags today, but that's life. Funny. Yay, it's working. Yeah, I don't know. People were like, where is she at? Where are you gonna see her? I always do the first couple minutes. I just have it on a waiting screen so that way people have time to come in, so don't miss anything at the beginning, because inevitably things will be missed and mistakes will be made, and I don't want people to miss anything, so it's really important to like catch the first couple minutes, because that's when I go over like the guidelines for the streams. Guess number one thing. Well, the first couple. Let's just do them all. So you have to be 18 or above to participate in the stream. If you're under the age of 18, please don't participate here. This is not a space for you. It's right there. It says 18 only. Listen to that. If I find out you're under 18 and you're participating in this, no more live stream for you. Don't be that person. Just don't. Other thing is please read the rules and FAQ below. That's also very serious. You know, to make sure you check out the FAQ and the rules below, because inevitably I get the same questions a lot because I've done this 60 times now, done a lot, and you know, also counting the book club streams and everything else. I've been doing this for a long time. I have had a lot of questions over the year and a half I've been doing this. There is an FAQ and there's a guideline for like what we're going to be doing in the stream. If you haven't watched it before, haven't watched in a while, please make sure you read that. Because if you ask a question that's covered in the FAQ, or if it's against the rules of the stream, I will either mute you, delete your question, or just skip it. And that's how we have to go, because there's usually enough people who watch this to where I'm not able to get to every single question every time, and just for the sake of not having every stream be all the same questions over and over and over again, I just don't answer things that are in the FAQ. There are links in there that go to my Tumblr, which don't work because Tumblr is dead for not safe for work content. I have about 95% of it up on my Patreon now, and I think after this stream is done, I have like one more thing I need to add, and then everything in the FAQ down below is going to get new links to it and everything else. So everything will be updated very soon. Just run out of time today to do one last thing, and then once that's done, then everything will be updated. But basically, this is like an interactive Q&A, and we ask questions, and we answer questions, and we chat, and basically, if it's something that's too personal, I'll let you know. I won't answer it. Otherwise, make sure you check the FAQ. There's a bunch of stuff that I don't give advice about and I don't talk about because YouTube is YouTube, and it's not necessarily the right place to talk about a lot of specific kinds of content. In particular, one of the things that comes up very often during live streams is people want to share their location or what city they live in and ask for where are there events in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it's like, I don't personally endorse doing that because you're permanently associating your name on YouTube with a specific location and BDSM, and like, first of all, even if I knew where dungeons were in that area, I don't share that over YouTube because most dungeon locations are private to people who RSVP to events on FetLife or buy tickets or something like that, and I don't want, you know, the whole free YouTube world to get that information. And also, you know, if it's something where it's like a convention, you know, that's like a big thing that's advertised, and that's also like a one-time thing at a convention center or a hotel usually, not like a permanent year-round facility, and like, that's a little bit different. But generally speaking, if you give out your location or information, I will probably delete that because I just don't want people to share that kind of private information on YouTube. Basic internet safety, everybody. All I want is basic internet safety. But let's go ahead and get into it. It's my first time joining the chat and not just lurking. Very exciting. Welcome. Welcome to the chat. Hi, everyone. Looks like we got a couple new people. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Silly. Hi, Pika. Hi, Robin. Hi, Jess. Hi, Mrs. Van K. Hi, Becca. Hi, EB608. Hi, Cite. Hi, Thanatos. Hi, Kat. Hi, all the people. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's 3 a.m. in Finland. That is very late or very early. I'm never sure when it comes to like that stretch of day. Yeah. It's like either you stayed up very late or you've woken up very early, and it's always a troublesome situation. How have you been? I've been pretty well. End of the month is always stressful for me because, like, oh, that's when you gotta get all your stuff done. And it's just like how Patreon works is like everything happens at the end of the month. So, trying to get stuff done this week. But feeling good, doing good. Got like 98% of the stuff that I need to get done this month is taken care of. I have to do a couple of like non-Patreon things in the next couple weeks, which is a little bit like, I'm not looking forward to that, but it's, you know, once it's done, it's done. I don't have to do it again. So once it's all taken care of, I'll be happy with that. But other than that, doing pretty well. I've really been enjoying the sunny weather outside. It's been fantastic. I mean, it hasn't been very warm. It's been like 60 degrees outside, but it's been sunny, which is an improvement over like 6 solid months of rain and clouds. So I will take it where I can get it, basically, because I'm very ready for it to be summer, and I love the warm weather, and that is me. I love the warm weather. I love summer, even though I wear lots of black. But you know, I've never really been like a wintry person. Never really been my thing. What are the differences between Violet Wand for electroplay and the sets that look almost identical sold for acne treatments? I have no idea. I did not. I know. So I've never seen that before. I know that they make like acne. Like I've seen like Neutrogena has like a face shield that emits, I don't remember what spectrum. It's a light spectrum of some kind for acne treatment, but that's not making electrical contact with your skin. That's just LED lights. And then the other thing that I know of is they basically make like electro pads for period pain that are basically like you put them around like your uterine area on your body around your period, and you basically give yourself a little TENS unit shock, and that's what's up with period pain. Have not seen anything for acne though, so my answer is I don't know what the difference is. I've not seen that. My guess is that they're probably constructed differently in some way, but I don't know anything about electrical engineering. So even if I did know that they existed, I would not be the person to tell you functionally how they're different because I've never used either one of them before. I've used Violet Wands in play like maybe 2 or 3 times. They're not really my jam. They're not something I use super frequently. So like electroplay type questions, I'm really like not the person to ask because it's not like I'm more familiar with TENS units, but Violet Wands I was just never. That's not my life. So I don't know. It's not something I engage in regularly enough to give a confident answer about. Oh, Corgi's just very in the back corner of the screen. You can see him in the very back.
No.
Well, you can see, look, he's perfectly in the frame. Look over there.
He's excited.
Boing. He's probably upset because the door isn't open, even though the door is literally open 24/7, like, except for when I live stream or when I'm, like...
Yeah, or when it's too cold.
Yeah, when it's too cold. Sometimes
He's just upset because his options have been removed.
I mean, I'm saying normally he'd be, like, right over here, like, by the fire, but maybe he doesn't want to be that close.
Well, it's pretty warm outside, actually.
I mean, it's been cold down here all day. It was probably
This
like,
house stays a few degrees colder.
yeah. I mean, it was probably like upstairs it was warmer because I had the heater on in the office, but I think down here it was maybe like 64, 65 majority of the day.
Mhm.
But there's no carpet, so like it always feels really cold because the floor is cold.
That's true.
I have a question. This is from Kat Sims. After an abusive dom, how do you get to enjoy subspace, little space, pet space again? It's kind of me now, and I don't know what steps to take to enjoy those headspaces again. Um, I guess how I would think about it is to just be gentle with yourself and give yourself space and time. I and like and no matter what the framework is for accessing like specific BDSM headspaces, like whether that be you really want to get somewhere specific in play or you're trying to get over a past partner that you have that heavily associated with or something else, like forcing it never works. It's one of those things where I think the more you try to force it to happen, the less able you are to do it. Like the more you think about it, the less you're able to actually do it. I don't know if that makes sense, but like in terms of any specific advice for like how to like separate that or like how to get back into it, like it's really like it's less about doing anything specific than it is like giving yourself like the time and the space to kind of resolve issues that occurred as a result of that relationship if it was something that happened within the context of an abusive dynamic where you were dealing with like intimate partner violence. you know it's going to be something that's more complicated to address than I can give advice about, in which case I highly recommend you seek somebody who's qualified to give mental health advice. There are lots and lots of resources. If you go to the national what is it? I'm forgetting the abbreviation. The National Coalition for Sexual Freedom. They have a ton of resources for kink aware and kink positive therapists and mental health practitioners, all other sorts thereof. You can search by area. You can find somebody you can talk to, even if it's for a session or two, like having somewhere where you can go and process things where the negative results of the relationship aren't blamed on the fact it was BDSM oriented. That can be really helpful. But I think if you're dealing with like how can I get back into BDSM after an abusive relationship, you need to work on processing the trauma. You need to work on processing the abuse. And that would be my step. I know people who kind of are into BDSM and they go from one relationship to another, or they leave an abusive relationship and continue on in the BDSM community and they keep playing and everything like that while they're still processing everything. I don't necessarily know how well that works enough to just like blanketly advocate that like that's a good idea for everybody. It's really dependent on like your individual processing methods and what happens and how connected you are to the local community. I think maintaining community connection can be really great. If you are somebody who's feeling a lack of headspace or connection to like pet play or age play or rope bondage or anything like that, like you can still continue to be part of the community and form connection that way even if you don't play. You can still go to events and munches and meetups and classes and socialize with people and feel connected to that part of yourself without having to feel pressured to just like jump into doing play again when you're still kind of processing negative things that have happened in previous relationships. And part of the reason why I'm reluctant to just say, oh, you just go out there and like just power through it is because trauma can come up in really unexpected ways during play, and especially if you're getting into something where you don't know anybody else in the community, you haven't played with anybody else except for this past partner, and then you're trying to go out and do pickup play with people who you don't really know, who maybe don't understand your past that well. You could very easily end up in a situation where like you end up with like really like just bad scene outcomes or like way higher aftercare needs than you expected that the other person isn't able to accommodate for whatever reason, and just like it's just a situation that could really easily lead to something super messy. So I guess this is sort of the long way of saying like work on starting the processing phase of everything. Let go of any like need to engage in something. I think there's like this feeling that like if you just stop doing it, it's not part of you anymore. And at least when it comes to BDSM things, I've always really felt that even if you're not currently practicing something, it can still really be a core part of who you are. And the lack of you currently participating in something or not doesn't mean that that part of you is gone, or like you don't have to like I mean, you're always, if you want to be anyways, you can always like use that like descriptor or label for yourself even if you're not like moment to moment engaging in that thing actively with a partner. I think it's actually pretty healthy to like occasionally take steps back from play and kind of reevaluating where you're at and taking a step into playing again. Like you don't have to like continuously be engaging, and you can use other things like you could go to munches and events and volunteer and do things along those lines to still feel connected without having to have any sort of like play pressure or like a rebound dom or anything like that, because again those situations can very easily go in unintendedly negative directions. But that's a very long answer. I have a question about keeping affection and BDSM separate, and if I should keep them separate or if having both is optional. If you haven't already, I recommend you watch my video about love and BDSM because that pretty much answers that question. The optimal path of BDSM is whatever works for you and your partners. I would say that, like, I would need to unpack what you mean by affection because that can mean a lot of different things. Like, you can, like, there's like romantic love and platonic love and caring about friends and being physically affectionate with other people, and like all of these things can be really different and not necessarily encompass the same thing. And I think sometimes when people say, you know, does there need to be affection involved, they mean does there need to be romantic love? And that's definitely a no, because if that was the case, then nobody would see pro-doms. But at the same time, it can be required for some people or be an important component to the types of BDSM play that they engage in. If you are asking more in the sense of like, do you need to care about your partner? You probably should. You don't need to be in love with them. You don't even necessarily need to be best friends, but you need to have some kind of base level of respect for them as a fellow human. That means that you're not going to violate their consent and you care about what happens to their body and their mind as a result of the play that you engage in. But you know, it's really about what works for you, what works for your partners, and what is optimal is determined by that because everybody has individual relationships. For some people, an optimal relationship is a closed, monogamous relationship that is sexually and romantically entangled. For other people, an optimal relationship is a, you know, no strings attached, solo poly, like bunch of casual play partners, nobody that they're sexually or romantically interested in type of dynamic. And so you can kind of, you know, it's very much a situation where you can create relationships that work for you. And I wouldn't get too hung up about trying to figure out like what is the best way to have a BDSM relationship, because that really is only determined by like your own personal needs, not any sort of dominant like expectation of this is how all BDSM relationships look like. Um, I'm curious as to whether there is more or less abuse in BDSM relationships than in vanilla ones. I'm wondering because isn't it inherently necessary to have strong communication and consent in a BDSM relationship? I mean, it's not like we really have any statistical studies out there that are like comparing the prevalences of abuse between BDSM dynamics and like vanilla ones. Like, that's not something that we have like the CDC working on or anything like that. So, like, there's no actual research that I'm aware of to put any solid scientific answer on that question. I would say, under the premise, like, isn't it necessary to have strong communication and consent in a BDSM relationship? Yes, that's true. However, not everybody practices BDSM that way. And I think 2 live streams ago, I think it was number 58, we talked about like abuse and consent violation in the BDSM community. And a lot of times what ends up happening is people who are the most prevalent abusers in the community, to the point where they have, scores of people they've left in their wake that they've abused in some capacity. They pay lip service to concepts like consent and communication. And then once they're in the relationship, they turn it on its head. It's less so that like abuse is less common because everybody walks into BDSM relationships with these skill sets intact. It's more that people who are the most dangerous tend to be people who know how to say the right things to get into a relationship that they want, and then it slowly starts to become something other than what was originally expected, or that takes on abusive forms or takes on forms of consent violation, and so on and so forth. And I think, while if you are properly informed yourself of like your own needs and your safety risk, you have like a good head about you, as opposed to just jumping into like BDSM relationships, and you know how to actually monitor if somebody practices healthy communication practices and encourages ongoing consent and things like that. Like, you can prevent yourself from falling into these relationships. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's any less common than in vanilla relationships. So I don't want to say that like the BDSM community is like immune to bad things happening. I would say it probably comes out in different ways, but I imagine that toxic relationships are likely just as common in vanilla relationships as they are in BDSM ones. And also because that language gets very, it gets murky. I know it can kind of sometimes seem like there's the BDSM world over here and there's the vanilla world over here, and they're very, very different things. But a lot of people who engage in BDSM do so like casually in their bedroom, like once a month with a partner. They don't go to classes, they don't go to munches, they don't go to parties. They just experiment with like choking and bondage in the bedroom, and like they might not even consider that BDSM. No, it is, because it's definitionally falls under the categories that are underneath the BDSM umbrella, but like whatever. So again, there's areas where it even gets murky to define, okay, where does vanilla relationship stop from BDSM relationship, because there's lots of vanilla people who use BDSM as a tool in the bedroom, and so like, who knows? I would probably say that like the BDSM community is more aware of good communication and consent practices, but it doesn't necessarily mean that abuse is any less common either. And again, we don't really have any studies to kind of say anything one way or the other. And just by the nature of how like communication works and stories get blown up, is a lot of what comes to mind is you hear about the BDSM relationships that go really bad versus like the other 15,000 in the same continent that are all going very smoothly every single day. So it's hard to know like with any certainty like where those lines actually are. As a reminder, if it's a question that is in the FAQ, I will not be covering it. I will not be reading it out loud. Oh, I totally missed your first question, Mrs. Van K. I'm sorry about that. So I've actually kind of covered this already. I am not planning on. I covered this in multiple videos actually. So I'm sorry if I'm going to sound a little bit frustrated here. But I have said multiple times that I'm not going to be doing anything like I'm actually going to probably remove these videos probably actually when I'm done doing this. I'm not going to be doing any more live streams where I show any scenes or pet play or cages or anything. They're just, it's not safe for YouTube. I don't want to get my fucking channel deleted over it. I don't really like people, like just random people on the internet saying that like in a part of my life. It's, you know, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. I've covered this again, multiple videos. I have an entire video where I just talk about what my boundaries are as a content creator. And one of those things that I said really clearly is I'm not showing these things during live streams anymore. So no, I don't have any plans for showing stuff like that during live streams anymore. Do you have any advice for getting to know people on FET? I'm very shy and I always feel like I come across too awkward, and so I end up not responding. I have a video. I can't remember exactly what the title is, but it's something like how to use FetLife, or like how to use FetLife to get what you want. But I don't think your situation sounds like it's FetLife specific. It sounds like you just have problems communicating with people and responding to messages. In which case, like I don't really think of FetLife as a way to like meet people to like date or like be in relationships with. I mean, I'm sure people use it for that, but I would think about it less that way and more of a way to like find events to go to. And I would probably assume that if you go to a munch or you go to a meetup or something and you actually talk to other kinky people, you'll probably have an easier time like having an actual conversation and responding versus like feeling paralyzed and like you can't respond to a message. And then it also just gets you more of a comfort level with the person because then you actually know that this is a real person and they're really who they say they are. And I mean, to the farthest extent that you can, when you physically met somebody, anyways. You know, they could still be lying about their age or their name, and like, you know, there's still plenty of ways where, you know, things could be, you know, concealed or lied about for sure. But I would probably say that actually like, you know, if you're having trouble like feeling confident like talking to people over the internet, like then don't use the internet as like a mode to communicate to people. I think FetLife is really best used not as a way to like have in-depth conversations with people, but to like meet people, like basically it's to go to events and then talk to people after you've met them at an event and be like, hey, you know, like, do you go to this event? Do you want to meet up again sometime? Do you want to go get coffee? Like that kind of thing, rather than using it as a way to like have like in-depth conversations. Because I think just the atmosphere of that life can make that kind of intimidating, and also again because you haven't actually met those people, it can be difficult to like actually know if they're worth spending time on, as it were. Do you have any tips to help a new submissive remember new rules and protocols? Write it down, write it down, write it down. Like it's the same way that you remember your notes from class. Like you write it down, you print it out, and you put it somewhere you're gonna look at it every day. You put it on the mirror in the bathroom, you put it on the fridge, you have it as a note on the screen of your phone, You have them read it out loud every day. You have them retype it or rewrite it by hand, like, once a week or something like that, something to help them remember it. Another thing is like, if you're with a new submissive, don't make too many rules. Like, it's probably not the best idea to start off a BDSM relationship with 50 rules up front that they're expected to suddenly remember all of them all at once. I am very much an advocate of slowly introducing BDSM rules over time in a relationship. Like, yes, it can seem really hot that you want to do all of these 30,000 things all right now and have all this like super, super regimented relationship. But how likely are you both to actually remember all of those things? Probably not. So, what makes more sense is to start off with a rule or two at a time. Add them slowly, maybe a new rule every week or every 2 weeks or every month. And then you just build from there. So that way you're not having to remember 20 all at once. You have to remember 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. And then that gives you time to actually like check in and like see what's working for the relationship. Because if you suddenly dump like 10 new rules all at the same time and then like something breaks, like something stops working and if it becomes overwhelming, you then have to go through all 10 of them all at once and say, okay, what's not working here? As opposed to when you're adding them like one at a time, okay, so now we have rules 1 and 2, things are good. Rule 3, things are good. Rule 4, things are Rule 5, oh, now suddenly things aren't working. It's probably Rule 5, or maybe it was Rule 5 along with Rule 4, Rule 3, and it just makes it easier to evaluate step by step and remember everything and see the connections between things as opposed to trying to do it all at once at the very beginning. I think this is a common mistake that a lot of new people make to BDSM because it's really easy to get lured into the idea of like the relationship contract and just wanting to like have everything super detailed and outlined all up front when like if you just met somebody last month and now you're in a power exchange relationship with them, like there's a lot of growth that's still going to be happening in that relationship, and like you need to kind of like take things a little bit slowly and kind of like see what works before you just like go ham on the rules. But I realize it's kind of going a little bit outside the scope of the question, but like based on like how many times I've gotten questions like that, I can pretty much figure out what the issue is, and it's usually too many rules up front with somebody who's new to BDSM or in a relationship with somebody they don't really know that well, and they haven't actually done anything to help them remember rules. Like, you can talk about rules as much as you want, but if you don't actually write them down anywhere, like, we don't even remember a freaking grocery list. Like, you can go to the store and be like, why am I here? What did I need to get? Like, you can just go to the store for literally one thing, get to the store and be like, why am I here? Was it bananas? I don't remember. Like, let alone trying to remember like 10 rules like you just got yesterday. You know what I mean? So, just human brains are not perfect and we have a shit ton of stuff we gotta remember every day. And, doesn't necessarily mean that like, the first part of a relationship, everybody's gonna remember everything right away. Any plans to go to FetCon in August? I don't know what FetCon is. I know FIRE, which is the Florida Intensive Rope Experience, which is also in August. I would so no. I guess the answer is I don't have any plans for that, but I would certainly look into it. Ooh, there's a lot to unpack in this question. I may be starting to develop an emotional attachment to a new play partner. His wife says that he needs to get a girlfriend, but he thinks she needs a friend with benefits. Haven't gotten to meet and ask what he wants yet. Any advice? Put the fucking brakes on whatever's happening right now, because there's about 8,000 different levels of communication that need to happen. Yeah.
That's my face.
He's making a face that looks, I think, incredulous. Would you say that's a good description?
I would say it's the equivalent of seeing a quarter of a mile up the road, just a bunch of flashing lights.
Yeah, that's some shit that needs to slow down. So, okay, let's break this. I'm not trying to like rag on anybody. Like, let's break this down to a couple
We
parts
need a
here.
diagram.
Element 1, you are developing an emotional attachment to the play partner. The play partner's wife says that he needs a girlfriend. You think that he says that she means a friends with benefits and not a girlfriend. But you haven't actually gotten to talk to him about what he means yet. That's the summary that I have of the situation right now. I think all of you need to do a little kitchen table Polly moment where you sit down and you figure out where this relationship is going. Because just because the wife says, oh, you need to get a girlfriend, or you need to get somebody to fuck, doesn't mean that she thinks that should be you. You're also only hearing any of this information secondhand. And you also don't really know anybody's actual opinion on any of this yet. So, if you want to make any of this happen in any way that's not going to end in a giant dumpster fire, all of you need to either literally physically sit down together and prepare for a long ass fucking conversation about what type of relationship you want is. Because just because the wife thinks he needs a girlfriend doesn't actually mean that he wants a girlfriend or needs one or that is you. And it's really freaking easy in BDSM to confuse happy scene feels with I'm falling in love with this person feels. Like, I've seen it happen time and time again, and I get questions about it all the time. People catching the feels for their play partners, and I don't know what to do. It's the exact same thing that happens when people try to do the no strings attached relationships where, oh, we just fuck and we're friends. That, oops, suddenly I just like had too many intense bonding experiences with you, and now we have feelings. Oopsie, who would have guessed that was gonna happen? It's really, really difficult to actually like, unless you both are going into the relationship equally like feeling that this is not going to be something where it's like anything else than play is going to happen. Like, it's so easy to be like, oops, accidentally caught the feels, and this isn't an appropriate place for that to happen. So like, I need Discord, Skype, kitchen table, something. Y'all need to all sit down together and figure out what the hell's going on with this relationship and like what everybody actually wants. And what I think would even be better is if before everybody goes and like says what they want, everybody should like individually write down, here's what I want from like a relationship. Like, here are my current goals and my current feelings. And then when everybody's kind of individually decided what their needs are, then you go in and have a conversation about what that looks in together. Because then you don't have to worry about one person changing the answer based on what somebody else says. They're just being honest based on what they actually want as opposed to what they think other people want to hear. And that can especially happen like if you're dealing with like a married couple who's opening their relationship for the first time. There's a lot of like marriage is sacrifice type things that end up happening where it's like, oh, well, I just said that I wanted a girlfriend because I thought that you said you wanted me to have a girlfriend and I wanted to do what you wanted me to do. And it's like, but what I want you to do is what you wanted. And then it just ends up being a hot mess. So like, before I get to that point, everybody talk about like to themselves what they want individually and then have a conversation about it together. And then
you know my favorite way of like dumb opening a relationship of like breaking open a relationship.
Yeah, with like a sledgehammer through a structurally important wall.
Is the assumption the person who kind of brings it up is assuming that they're like held back by the relationship or that they like that having relationships with other people is easy.
Yeah.
And
just go have another girlfriend.
They talk their other partner into it.
Mm-hmm.
And their other partner is sometimes my favorite is just slightly more successful. Like has
somebody who makes $10,000 more a year.
3 dates a week instead of 2.
Uh-huh.
And then it's a horrible shit show and it's a meltdown.
I mean, fucking 2 dates a week is good. Like, how the fuck you mean that many people who aren't serial killers on OKC? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's type A personalities, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's people who are like, I'm gonna make the best profile. But anyways, hopefully that makes sense. But like, Like all of that just sounds like it could go bad really easily, and there's like way too much assumption happening for like this to be comfortable. Like ideally, like even before it got this far, there should have been like a mutual three-way sit-down conversation about what's happening with this relationship. Because like if the play partner and his wife don't even know what they want between each other, like that's gonna like make it real hard for like anybody else to step into that mess. Yeah, especially if it's like one person is imposing a want on the other person, like when they're like, no, I think you need this, and they're like, well, actually, the only thing I need is this. Like, it kind of becomes like weird.
Yeah.
Like if one person is expecting the other party to do one thing one way, you know,
Yep.
it just becomes a mess. Anyways, that's all I'm gonna say for that. And yeah, good luck, basically, is what I would say, because that sounds like a hot mess.
Tread carefully.
So the best step is absolute communication. They've been actively open since they were together. They're the experienced ones. Doing something for a long time doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're doing. Especially.
Oh yeah, yeah. Some of the biggest fuck ups I've met in terms of poly have been like doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like involve children as tactical like ways of hurting other partners. Continually lie about partner status, aren't like open with other it's
Don't
just like
share STI information.
Yeah.
Don't lie about testing results. Don't use condoms when they agree that they should
Yeah.
use, or don't talk about safer sex methods at all. Just because somebody says that they've done something for a while, and like in particular, just the part where you mentioned that like the wife says that you think that the wife says he wants a girlfriend, but then he thinks that his wife wants him to have friends. But that by itself means that they're not on the same page enough for me to like if they've been doing this long enough, they should already have had that shit figured out about what like. It shouldn't even be a matter of like my wife wants me to have X. It should be about what everybody individually wants and then negotiating around that. It shouldn't be, oh, I think you need to have a whatever. It doesn't know. You don't get to like it would be like if I went to Mr. Tex and said, I think you need to have another submissive. Like, he fucking gets to make that decision. It's not up to me to impose on him, like, what additional relationships he wants to have. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah, it's you want to avoid imposition. It needs to be a conversation.
Exactly.
Hi, like the Corgi's currently having.
He's imposing very strongly.
You know why?
Food time?
It's until 7. Hey, dude, I'll feed you in just a moment.
But yeah, I would be cautious saying like just because you've been open for a long time doesn't mean that hasn't been a series of train wrecks with former partners. Yeah, I've met those couples who are like, we've been in an open relationship for 15 years, and then it's like, why do neither one of you have any other partners that have been around longer than 6 months?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I get it. Not that that's what's happening with this situation, but like, warning to the uninitiated of the open relationship universe. It's the same thing with BDSM. Number of years of experience doesn't actually fucking mean that they know what they're doing. It could mean that they've gotten away with bad habits for a very long time, and because of a partnership that they're in that's a long-standing partnership, they've enabled each other to maintain bad habits for a long time. Because no one's called them out on their bullshit. It's the same reason why you have people like who've been doing BDSM for like 20 years, like repeating the same like demonstrably false like BS about different safety practices or like just different forms of play or like different levels of risk for different things. And it's like, actually no, we've known that that's not true for like the last 5 years. So like, why are you still doing this way? Anyways, that's like a whole other subject.
And anyone who thinks it's just as easy as like just getting a girlfriend, it's like, no, I know. Ah, you fucked up there.
Ah, you fucked up. have you ever had any weird encounters with people who recognize you in public? No, I haven't had any weird encounters. Like, people are always really nice. I mean, I've definitely had situations where people like are shy or like nervous about it, but like I'm always aware that like whenever I go to something that has my name on a name tag that says hi, I'm Evie Lupine, like there's probably gonna be people around who might know who I am. Like if I go to Folsom or a convention, like I'm always prepared for that to happen. I've never had anything awkward that I can think of. Like people are always really nice. So if you're watching this and you're going to Pink Fest or Chicago Roadcraft or something else, and if you're going to be in Belize the first week of May, if you see me,
we will not be easy to get to, however.
we're not easy to get to. But if for some reason we end up on the same zip line,
yeah, exactly.
I like your video. Yeah. No, but in all seriousness though, like if you ever like meet me or like Mr. Tex or like, I mean, I don't want to speak for Mr. Tex about this, but like if you see me, unless I'm actively engaging in a conversation with somebody else, or I have half a hot dog in my face, or if I'm engaging in a scene, or if I'm crying, like unless it's one of those times, it's probably pretty okay to say hi to me or like make a little wave or like an acknowledgement if you just want to like give me a little thumbs up and like mouth I love your videos from across the room, like that works too.
And you usually do at least like you at least go to whatever social they have going.
Yeah,
on
I do. Like if there's social events at like a big like convention, I'll go to those so I'm like around if people want to.
I have actually had a couple occasions people approach me and it's just like, can I talk with you? He's like, no, okay. And so you'd see me kind of like not.
Well, I mean, you're much more prevalent on the horizon than I am.
That is true. I can be easier to spot. But so if you see me again in similar, like not involved in a scene,
not crying, not have a hot dog in your face.
Exactly. You're free to ask me as well, like if Evie's free to chat.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So I bet that wasn't as exciting as an answer as people were hoping it would be, but like people are pretty nice. I mean, because like the worst that's gonna happen is somebody's gonna do something, and then I'm gonna call DM and like you get kicked out. Like that's what happens when you're weird with people. And like, I'm sorry, could you just hold on for a moment? DM, this person's kind of like not really respecting my like personal space.
Oh yeah,
and,
like
like it's super easy to deal with people who are like invading your personal bubble and like in ways and like
especially at all the events like you mentioned like going to, it's like none of the DMs there like fuck around.
Yeah, they don't fuck around. I mean, they're not necessarily going to put somebody on their ass and like revoke their con pass or something, but they're going to have a conversation where it's like, by the way, this is a space for like, because a lot of these conventions, like, they have people who are big names in the BDSM community at them, like Lee Harrington or Midori or whoever, and like, I'm sure those people probably have had interesting situations, particularly probably the people who are like, Princess Kali or people who probably have quite a following of male submissives who have fantasized about them for a long time. I'm sure they've had awkward encounters, and so I'm sure that the DMs and like the people who organize the events are kind of used to being like, by the way, everybody's here to equally enjoy like having a BDSM experience as a participant. Like unless they're doing a book signing or something, like just be cautious of their personal space, and like if they say they don't want to talk right now, like listen to that, and
And something to keep in mind is like, if you run into like somebody you know at a BDSM conference and they're giving you bad,
like a coworker.
Well, no, it's like a semi-famous, famous in the scene person, and they're like giving you bad vibes, or just be aware like anyone who like goes to a BDSM thing and potentially engages in play can always have bad times, and so like just kind of like assess the situation. Are they do they have open body posture? Are they in an area where like it's appropriate to talk? If you meet somebody in a cloakroom, something like, oh, I love your stuff, that's a cute dress, that's great. You may not want to like start into like a big long discussion. If they're at a mix or something.
Can I quiz you about all of my BDSM philosophy things?
Yeah.
And get your autograph on my butt.
And you know, maybe the longer conversation's fine if it's like a cigar social.
Yeah. But if it's like I'm halfway done packing my bag to
Yeah.
go home for the night, that's probably not the best time to like
and
have that discussion.
And especially like a BDSM event, just being willing to hear the facts like, hey, thank you, I'm sorry, right now I need
I'm
to.
gonna be at the cigar social tomorrow. Why
Yeah.
don't you talk to me then? And
Yeah.
if you don't like being around cigar smoke, I'll also be at the community dinner.
Yeah.
And if you don't like eating food, then you can see me in the vendor area. You know, like there's always options.
Yeah.
Unless it's the last 10 minutes of the public dungeon being open on the last night, like.
It's like, yeah, the thing with BDSM stuff that's different from like other cons is like how much emotions can vary through the event just by virtue of what we do, like emotional state.
You'd be like,
you can feel like you're on cloud fucking nine and you're ready to like
party,
you know, kick 1,000 fascists in the face and just you're gonna conquer the world. And then the other time is you're just like, can somebody find me a grave to bury me in, alive for preference. So.
Love my pigtails, thank you. I did lower pigtails this time. Somebody commented and said I should try them, so I did. Because I always listen to advice from strangers on the internet without thinking twice or any further considerations. Do you know if there's a more detailed BDSM test than BDSMtest.org? Not that I'm aware of.
I would be shocked to find something more detailed.
No. I mean, I get kind of the appeal of that, right? Like, there's like the I need somebody to tell me what I am so I know what to do. Like, I totally get that. I totally get the, like, I need something more detailed to make sure I'm doing. It's the same reason why people like the 120 question inventory personality test. It's like, tell me what I am in life so I know I'm doing the right thing.
What color is your parachute?
Exactly. So now I know exactly what all of my things are, so now I can get my ducks in a row. Fantastic.
What color is your duck?
That's
a good quiz.
But the thing is to remember about BDSM tests is like they're not like the, as far as the BDSM test goes, like that pretty much fucking covers all of the like main areas in terms of titles and proclivities that I can think of. The questions are not necessarily, I think, maybe the best in some regards. I think they could maybe get into some areas that are maybe a little bit assumptive about why people do BDSM, kind of in general, which is not the greatest. But I can't think of anything more detailed. And one of the things that I think is maybe important to think about is most people take the BDSM test like multiple times. It's not like you do it once when you make a Fat Life account and that's who you are for forever and you've sealed the deal. You know, like
and I guess they update from time to time. Like they will add things.
Not that I've seen. Since the first. So I've taken it multiple times just to see if it's changed, and there has not been any noticeable shift that I'm aware of, except for perhaps using slightly different terminology for like 2 categories, or like maybe adding a category. But like nothing, like there's not been a complete overhaul of anything since I've done it in like 4 or 5 years.
Right, but I do think they do add categories in.
They haven't added. They've added one that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Or they've changed wording for something. I'm not even sure if it's a new category. But point being is that like most people take it multiple times and like track it over time. So like 6 months into BDSM, a year into BDSM, 2 years into BDSM, once you've gotten out of a relationship, you know, so on and so forth. And then the percentages of things will just change naturally. And I think it's more important to think about, like, the BDSM test isn't necessarily a way of telling you, here's what I am. Or like what I should be doing. It's a way of thinking about, or like reflecting on what your tendencies might be, and kind of going from there. Like, I've seen people who started out as like 30% switch, like 6 months later are now like 80% switch, or go from like 99% non-monogamous to like 10% non-monogamous if they've had like a bad experience with non-monogamy. If you're thinking about, because I'm kind of interpolating that like the reason you asked this is because you're looking for something to guide you towards what you're interested in. And I don't necessarily think BDSM tests of any kind are helpful for that, other than in the most general superficial capacity. And I think rather than looking at things through the lens of I need something to tell me what I should be looking into, just being open to experiences in general. Because that's part of being in the BDSM world and being in the community. And the more that you can be open to new experiences, the more opportunity you have to discover what your true enjoyments are. Because this has happened to me, this has happened to the majority of people that I know. Who you are, like what your interests are, the first month that you're into BDSM will like almost always be very different 2 years into BDSM, 5 years into BDSM, 10 years into BDSM. If you can stay open to experiences and reconsidering things, learning more about kinks that you think are just like, that's totally disgusting, I would never do it. Maybe learning about it or watching other people do it might change your mind about something, or maybe a thing that you thought you were really into is maybe only something you're really actually comfortable doing in fantasy. Whole bunch of things can change the reality of what you actually experience when you're doing BDSM. So I guess long answer short is don't look to BDSM tests to tell you what you should be doing with your life. PSA. Hey Evie, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me a place with so much information to safely find out who I am. It's been a long journey for me, but this is a channel has made a positive difference. That is wonderful. I am glad that you enjoy the videos. I will be doing many, many more. Unless YouTube physically stops me from uploading videos, I can't imagine this is going anywhere anytime soon. So stick around.
Well, God forbid they do, but you've got options.
I've got options.
Thanks to your lovely patrons
Yay!
who provide you with the support you need, that even if you two were to be crazy motherfuckers, you would still be able to put content out there.
It's true.
People. Patreon.com/EvilPie.
Boop, that's me. It's not self-promo because he did it.
Yeah.
What if I got Melkor to advertise for me?
Get like a little, I don't know, like a. Like
I was thinking of a sandwich board.
That's gonna be a real short sandwich.
I know. I don't have to write
That would be a
message
submarine sandwich.
No,
board.
you know like the old Chick-fil-A commercials from the 90s
Yeah.
that said eat more chicken,
yeah.
but like that, but
It's
on
kind of proportioned like
a cow. That's offensive.
Well,
He said it, not me, Corgi.
he's like, as long as he feeds me in the next 10 minutes. I'll be forgetful.
You gonna be Dr. Phil for Halloween? Absolutely not. Dr. Phil, I have a complicated relationship with Dr. Phil. Because on the one hand, I'm like, does he probably give good advice at some points? Maybe. Does he also do things for the primetime equivalent of clickbait? Yes.
Yeah, people acting like clickbait's this new internet shit, but goddamn, why don't you Springer?
Yeah, exactly. It's been going on for a long time, my dudes. Long time. Don't know why I had to say it that many times.
Well, you gotta make your point.
I did. I love hyperbole. Hyperbole. Putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. It's my favorite thing to do. Sorry, non-native English speakers. That probably sounded absolutely bizarre. In your opinion, do you believe that a person who's new to BDSM should go into a poly relationship with experience, or is that step too far for a new person? So like poly and BDSM are different things. Based on how you phrase that, it makes it sound like there is an implication that in order to do BDSM, you have to be also poly, and so you should do BDSM by involving yourself with experienced people with poly. Whole video about this. It's called The Biggest Misconception About BDSM or something like that. You don't have to do poly to do BDSM. Being experienced in one or the other does not mean that you know jack shit about the other at all. You can have 30 years of experience in BDSM and know nothing about poly. You can be poly your whole life and know nothing about BDSM. You can be really shitty at one and really good at the other, and vice versa. I know many people who are great play partners, who know their shit when it comes to doing a BDSM scene, do things in their polyamorous dynamics that absolutely just astound me with their like lack of forethought. So I would probably say if you want to do BDSM, it's probably a good idea to find somebody who's experienced with BDSM. If you are new to poly, it's probably a good idea to, if you're interested in that type of relationship, to find people who know about poly. Not necessarily going to translate from one to the other. I'm not, like, I don't really involve myself with non-kinky polyamorous people. I don't even have a Facebook, so like that's my understanding of where poly people connect is Facebook, because it's Facebook. And so like I don't even really know like what the overlap is, but generally speaking, like while there's a lot of kinky people who are polyamorous, not everybody who's polyamorous is kinky. And so like if you're trying to find one and the other, you're probably not necessarily going to be super successful. If you are new to both, I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting doing both at the same time, because that's a lot of new stuff for your brain to process.
It's the same thing as the rules thing.
It's the same thing as don't overload your brain. You
can have issues with BDSM, you can have issues with poly.
Exactly. And then if you do both together, how are you going to figure out, like, where is the problem, the poly? Is it the BDSM? Is it how often you're doing something? Is it the type of poly you're doing? You know, if you're trying to do both at the same time and you've never done either before, it's a lot of shit for your brain to work out. Give your brain a break. Be easy on your brain. You got time. You got time. I know there's like this idea that people have that like, oh shit, I gotta do BDSM before I turn 30, and I gotta figure out my poly shit before I turn 30, because like if I don't, nobody's gonna want to date me and I'm gonna be an old hag, and like it's like this idea that poly and kink is for young people. It's absolutely not. Kink and poly are for older people, if anything. The average age of people I see at BDSM and poly events is, I mean, if you're looking at like OKC or whatever, if you're trying to actually find people, when you put age restrictions on there, obviously you're only going to see people who have like mutual age matches. But like if you're going to like a convention or a munch or something and it's not like a age range specific event, the average age is probably closer to 50. Like most people who engage in this in a public way are older, because it takes time and it takes money, and usually people don't really have a lot of that until they're more mature in their careers. They've had time to kind of work through their shame and their guilt around their sexual needs and relationships. They are at a point, like if you're like 25 and you don't got shit money, and then 2 years later you get married, and then oops, you have a kid, or maybe on purpose you have a kid, I don't know. Like you're dealing with like having a new career and student loans, taking care of a baby. Most people in that time period of life are not like, you know what's a really great thing I should do right now at this moment in my life that's filled with chaos is like I should also try to do BDSM on top of all this. Most people like wait until they're kind of like, not necessarily on purpose, but just through like kind of the stages of development, like when people get introduced to things, usually it tends to be people are a little bit more on the mature side of life by the time they start in BDSM. There are a ton of new people in BDSM. There are entire groups for new people who are under the age of 35, or people who are just under the age of 35 in general, because you can be 35 in BDSM and have 15 years of experience. Like that also happens. You can have tons of experience and still be, you know, under the age of 50, obviously, but like it's not a new person's game. It's not something where it's not a young person's game. You don't have to rush in and try to get everything done before you turn 25. Like, that's not something that happens. You can take your time, introduce things slowly, become acquainted with different styles of relationships, do some self-exploration, just pause and relax and like take time. It's like there's no reason to rush. It's like trying to rush into doing the splits when you're starting doing gymnastics. Like you're probably just gonna hurt yourself. So like don't rush. Just it's gonna take however much time it takes. Introduce new things over, you know, weeks or months or years. Just kind of get familiar with concepts and ideas before you decide, okay, so I've never done this before, but now I want a polyamorous 24/7 power exchange BDSM dynamic.
With a sextuple polycule.
Did you pick that number because it sounds like sex, or?
I was just going for like a big number, and then I hit sextuple, and I was like, that'll do.
Octuple. Octuple?
Centuple. I mean, if you're gonna do BDSM seriously, you need a boy, you need a slave, you need a pup, you need a cat, you need like all these. It's like fucking job. You're gonna be interviewing constantly. Like that's what real BDSM is.
Yep. That's the truth. Dr. Phil plays a doctor on TV. He's a con artist. I mean, it's probably true. I don't really spend a lot
There
of time.
are worse than Dr. Phil.
Yeah, worse than Dr. Phil. I would say I don't really spend any time thinking about Dr. Phil.
He is actually
So-
like medically trained, and he does.
Is he like Dr. Oz?
He is not near. I was about to say he's not nearly as bad as Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz is a charlatan. Dr. Phil is somebody who. Dr. Phil is like the HuffPost of clickbait. Like, yes, it's
HuffPo now.
HuffPo. Yeah.
We've modernized it.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
gotten hip to the new language.
Yeah. Whereas Dr. Oz is the fucking Daily Caller. Where
What's
it's like,
that? Is that like the Sun?
It's right wing.
Oh! Yeah, that one kind of sounds a little bit Nazi now that I think about it.
A little bit.
The Daily Stormfront or something. I feel like that's the thing.
Politics.
I don't remember though. I feel like there's a channel on there who's like, I came across something the other day that was like, and here's the token woman alt-right YouTuber, like legit like alt-right great replacement theory YouTuber.
Oh, Lauren Southern.
No. I forgot about her for a second. But another one.
Oh,
that's
the one
not
who
blonde.
like chained herself to Twitter.
Maybe. That sounds like something that might happen. Also, started the thing on Sunday. I got an email asking for RSVP for it, so.
Oh, I sent in RSVP for both of us.
Okay.
I said 2 guests.
Cool, alright.
So if you'll let the person know.
I will let them know. I just wanted to, I saw it, and I was like, let me say this now. Is it common for 2 submissives to develop emotional relationship? I mean, I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. I mean, emotional relationship is such a vague term though, because like, I would consider friendship to be an emotional relationship. Because there's like shared bonding there and like emotional intimacy. So, I mean, I like, it's as common as any other human beings forming emotional attachments when they share an interest. So I'm not necessarily thinking that I fully grasp the question. So like if
I guess
It's
what's the submissive's relationship? Are they submissive to the same top?
yeah, exactly. Like is it something where it's like what is constructing this bond?
Do they participate in the same scenes? Are they?
Yeah, do they co-bottom? Do they have the same dominant partner? Are they in a polycule? Do they go to the same munches? Do they have the same kinks? Like, I mean, like I said, I'm gonna stick with my answer that like it's about as common as any other people sharing a hobby would develop an emotional bond. Like if it's like, hey, you like magic, I like magic, we like the same things about magic. Now we're gonna be friends because we like magic. I don't know. Maybe magic's too competitive for that to happen. Are people actually friends when they play magic, or are they frenemies?
They're friends maybe before. Sometimes like, they
Sometimes
take it
after,
pretty
not as
seriously.
much.
Or you can be like me and the couple you hung out with once while we played Elder Dragon Highlander, and it was just like, we'll take this time to all hate each other just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And my marvelous deck of squirrels.
Yes. Working the front desk at my local dungeon, watching your live stream with some fellow Kingsters. I'm being broadcasted.
Shock.
Hopefully you find this entertaining and not offensive. I'm
waiting for Evie to get to the point where she's like such a figure in kink education. There are like videos of her face, like just repeating pro, pro good BDSM practice propaganda, like Big Brother type things at like every kink dungeon?
I hope not. Would it? I don't know why I'm asking this during the live stream, but I honestly don't give a fuck. Is there a possibility of ordering food that involves me procuring something that has chocolate flavor?
Yeah.
I kind of want to get some
Milkshake?
something.
Or do
I
you
was
want, like,
thinking
cakey?
like vegan chocolate ice cream or something. I don't know, just something chocolate.
Probably have better. I can look to see if there's vegan like ice cream type options. You may want to set your hopes on like a cakey type
Cakey thing. Okay.
chocolate.
Okay, I can do that. I saw some chocolate cold. Good.
Cold and chocolatey.
My local dungeon only allows male and female couples to get in. Isn't that kind of stupid?
The fuck?
That is absolutely stupid. I'm actually going to say, I don't really think that's a dungeon. That's not an
It's a
insult to
swingers
you.
club.
It sounds like a swingers club. That is something a swingers club does.
Yep, exactly.
It's a swingers club that has a BDSM feature. It's like going to a gym that has yoga on Tuesdays as opposed to going to a yoga studio. Like, it's a very different atmosphere, even if they tentatively offer similar things. That's the best analogy I can make. Is that like I have never been anywhere in the country or even thought about going to a dungeon, because I've researched plenty of them because I get questions about like, do you know anywhere that's here? I have never seen anywhere that is a standalone BDSM dedicated dungeon space that implements gendered pricing structures or requires only couples attend, male, female. First of all, that's fucking so, like, LGBT phobic that I can't even. Like, what the fuck? Like, the more I think about it, the more angry I get, because it's not just like, heaven forbid we have the gays show up. Heaven forbid we have the bisexuals show up.
Well,
Heaven forbid we have a polykill show up. I mean, God, it's couples only. You can't even have a triad and go. Like, what?
They'd probably be okay with a triad as long as it's male, female.
No, it would have to be.
Oh, sorry,
male,
the
female,
other one.
female.
Yeah, female.
Because only bisexual women are like safe. Because for some reason, if there's not a penis, that's fine. Because also it's only cis females, so there's that.
Yeah, sorry, we should have been clear.
Yeah, no, I mean, do we need to imply, like, from the perspective of like being the least charitable possible?
Yeah.
Most places that say male female couples only are not trans inclusive spaces.
Yeah.
It's like, can we check your junk before we let you in? Because,
show me your crotch exposed so that I may examine it.
The more I think about it, the more I realize how phobic it is. It's so phobic. It's so unbelievable. I would not go there. I would not put my money anywhere near that place. I would not support such behaviors. Why? Why? Why is this the thing? I'm going to stop thinking about this before I get more angry, because I'm just getting more angry the more I think about it. I should be thinking about delicious vegan chocolate desserts, but instead I'm thinking about transphobia and homophobia and all of the other phobias associated with non-heterosexual cisgender relationships.
What about that crepe place? How do you feel about that?
I think that might be a little bit much. It's only one of my countries. I'm just gonna have to fuck myself, actually. Oh no, that's so sad. Okay, maybe if it's in Europe, that might be a thing that's more common, but it still sounds like some bullshit, and I'm real sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna be a thing.
Like, I can imagine, so, like, obviously my perspective is, like, somebody who's from the U.S. Like, in the U.S., that would be extremely, extremely weird.
Yeah.
Is there also going to get food from here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably go, like, something light.
Okay. Ooh, raspberries.
Yeah, that's we've ordered from them before, and they have a nice.
Oh, I got my lattes, so I should be okay.
So you want that chocolate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you want something like milkshake?
No, I think that's good. I don't really want a lot of volume. I just am like.
You want the chocolate cake?
No, I just wanted something that was like cold and creamy.
Raspberry mousse.
Yeah, but I saw that and that sounded better.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I picked the right thing. I know it sounds weird. Um, but yeah, I don't really know a lot about like outside of a little bit about the UK. Like I don't really know a lot about like I'm assuming there's probably parts of Europe that's more closed and therefore less common to have access to things that aren't just like giant piles of phobia issues. It's so unfortunate. Um, I think somebody mentioned like where are your favorite places to buy shit. I literally have a list with like hundreds of stores on it. It's on my Patreon. Link to my Patreon is down below. You don't have to be a member to see the post. It's just up there. But if you go to the patreon.com/Lupine, it's there in the description box. You go there. I have lists where I've broken down category by category, canes, bloggers, whips, etc. Everybody across the world that makes them. You go look, and it's literally hundreds of options, and there's just a lot out. There's a lot out there, basically. So have fun looking at that. Because there's way too many for me to pick. Just like, here's what I enjoy. The dog is so cute. That's Melkor. He's a corgi. Hi, Carmen. Glad you could make it. Welcome. Dr. Phil said interabled couples are deemed to fail. I don't know what interabled means. Does that mean relationships between people with disabilities and people without disabilities?
I think so.
That's a weird opinion to have, but okay. You know, like I said, I just don't spend a lot of time thinking about Dr. Phil because he's not worth listening to.
Dr. Oz is like a level of evil. Dr. Phil isn't. Like, Dr. Phil says shitty things, and oftentimes
like Dr. Phil's like the shitty person on Twitter.
Doesn't stay in his own lane.
Yeah, he doesn't stay in his own lane and like mansplains at people and like does all that bullshit. Whereas like Dr. Oz is like, here's all of this information that's
Dr. Oz is like, if you have cancer, why not try this homeopathic remedy?
Why is that? Make you come back to look that shit in the wages. I have opinions. But there is that other place that's on Postmates.
Oh. Are you still thinking about chocolate
place.
options?
The cookie place.
We could, I mean, we can always just
next time
like walk somewhere or like walk to the grocery store.
I still have the big gash on my So this is I messed up the back of my foot real bad in these pair of shoes. Like, it's not pretty. And then I went on a walk yesterday, and the only thing I had that wasn't irritating that were flip flops. But then the flip flops gave me blisters on the balls of my feet. And so walking is just bad right now. Why have I done this to me? I probably could have worn my hiking shoes and been fine, but like putting them on is such a pain.
I told you how to help you out on that, so take me up on it, honey.
Buy shoes. My dog. Oh, this is. We're just having all of the. I don't know if there's a meme for this face, but like the questions. I think that's a thing. Not that this is like your fault or anything, but I read it and I'm instantly like, no. And that would be, my dom wants me to fuck other people and dominate them. Is that normal from a dom's perspective, Mr. Tex?
If
In
they
parentheses.
negotiate, so first of all, here's what's normal. We're doing shit where we hit other people with things we buy from other people who sell things to us to hit other people with. That's not normal.
Wait, I don't know how loud it is. I just want to emphasize that.
Yeah.
Forget what's normal, because we're in uncharted waters right now, folks.
Normal is
Normal doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Normal means nothing. And what it's so.
Yeah.
It
So
was what you
yes,
negotiated. Sure.
a dom can absolutely work with you to find other submissives to involve in scenes of a sexual nature. Yes, that is something that happens. That is something a dom can choose to do. The concerning thing there is because it sounds like he just wants you to find other people, and he's like, or what a dom really can't do. I mean, like technically, it's like there's no
It's
hard
a
and fast
slippery
rule against
slope.
it. Dom can't be like, you submissive, find another submissive so that they may enjoy my magnificent penis.
I mean,
That shit doesn't really work.
yeah, that doesn't really happen. That's like a fantasy that people have that like nobody's really down for.
I mean, it does. Don't get me wrong. It happens. Like there are people out there.
Because you know what that is? It's grooming. And you know what it is? It's like the form that takes is like, you know how like, this is a terrible analogy and like I hate comparing BDSM to this in any ways, but like, you ever seen those signs on the side of the road that have the phone numbers to call, like make $2,000 in a month, call this number, and then you call it and then it's like a nice lady and she's like luring in the young women to like do this like, oh, it's so easy, you can work from home, you make like $4,000 a month, you only have to work 20 hours a week, blah, blah, blah. Well, then it turns out that that person's actually the bottom bitch for like some like big pimp in the area, and like she's the one who brings in like the new prostitutes. Like that's like the most similar. It's like treating the first submissive is bait to make the second submissive feel comfortable. And that's fucked up and weird. For most people. Not everybody. Most people would find that really weird. Like if I was talking to a submissive and we were getting along and then they went, oh, do you want to be my dom? Okay, great. And then it's like, okay, do you want to play with my dom? No. Like if I want to do that, I'll have a conversation with them. Why are you bait? This makes no sense. Okay, so I guess breaking this down further, my dom wants me to fuck other people and dominate them. Is this normal from a dom's perspective? The desire is different from implementing the action. Based on my observations and the number of times I've gotten questions like this, I would say it is a fairly common fantasy for younger male doms to want their female submissives to find other females to dominate. So either there's like this power exchange level where like there's an intermediary submissive who, under the orders of the dominant, is dominating another woman. Because you know what that is? It's fucking BDSM lesbian porn. And I don't see why like any like it's so common that like I can totally see like it's like, oh, okay, so this is just like lesbian porn for men put through a BDSM framework. Like it's literally two women engaging in BDSM under the direction of a man. Like I can imagine that for like a heterosexual cis male top that is like a very fulfilling experience that very closely replicates a lot of things that are probably in porn. However, is it common? Is it something that a lot of people do as part of a relationship? No. And based on the way that you phrased it, it makes it sound like he has gone to you with the expectation that this is something that you should be okay with because this is something that people in the BDSM world just do. And the answer to that is no. I have never met anybody who has ever successfully done anything like that.
So to be fair,
I've known quite a few people where it's like the male top, or just the top in general. So I'm actually thinking of one couple that's ranged out of that, and it's female top, male, female bottom. But the top in there does actually like arrange, another partner of the scenes are sexual, dominates both, or directs one of the subs to dominate the other. That is a scene that is, I would say, I don't want to say like common, but it is like it's definitely something that happens. It's definitely
Yeah,
like
it's a common fantasy. I don't really think it's successfully implemented that much. And again, it goes back to the phrasing of the expectation that, like,
right.
based
That's
off of
where
the
it
way
goes
this
wrong.
is phrased, is it sounds like specifically with it's not about what you want. It's not about what is like. It sounds like your sexuality and your sexual preferences are not even coming into this conversation. It's literally, as a dom, I want you, my female sub, to fuck other women and dominate them because it would make me happy to see you do that. Not about what you want, not about what you're comfortable with. Nothing even about like the theoretical person that would take up this other role, where they have to act out underneath both of your wills, which is fucking complicated. Like, it's just a lot of red flags. It's something that, if it's going to happen, is very complicated, and it should not be something that you are expected to do, because there is pretty much nothing in BDSM where it's like, oh well, submissives are just supposed to do this. This is how BDSM relationship works. Like, no, that's not like how this world happens. We don't just go through things like. But as a submissive, it should be expected that, like, this is a service you will perform for me. Like, if you don't negotiate that as part of your power exchange relationship, even if you do, you can still have a real consent for it. Like, if they needed that in a relationship, they should have talked to you about it before you agreed to anything. And they don't get to retroactively say, like, you haven't presumably negotiated for blanket consent where they can just tell you to do whatever they want, whenever they want. And unless you have that type of arrangement, then, like, it just gets increasingly dicey. So I would remind your partner that, like, you only negotiate to do the things you've negotiated to do. You, like, negotiate, like, you don't exchange power until you've negotiated the premises under which that power will be exchanged. You don't get just to come in and say, I'm your dominant, and despite the fact we haven't never mentioned this before, I just get to expect you to do this and you should just do it. Like, that's not how that works in, like, 99% of cases. And you don't have to have, like, I guess the thing about this that really bothers me is, like, it's, first of all, it's using you like an object for his pleasure. But it's like, now you are also expected to go out and find a third party.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah, is like, it doesn't matter who the third party they are. You could do this with a fucking inflatable plastic doll. Like,
which is like pre-objectification. It's so, I mean, it's amazing because, like,
this is literally what's on fucking the personal area, like the
Oh,
area
yeah.
personal ads on FetLife, like all the time. Is people who are like BDSM couple seeking third to fulfill, like, submissive desires to act out
my
her
submissive
dominant
wants to
energy.
explore her lesbianism. You'll get to help her do that by fucking me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, it's just, it's not great. I would not, I would step far away from that.
Believe her, she would. In a fucking heartbeat, she'd step away.
Again, I'm gonna start rambling things that make me angry, because the more I think about it, the angrier I get. And
No, I
it's
mean,
just like,
100%.
like, I just kept thinking about it, and I was like, what is about this that bothers me? I'm like, oh right, it's because the third person is literally an object of an object. Got it. All right, yeah, let's just remove this. Let's remove any humanity about this. This is literally about finding an actress to fill a role in. Like, it doesn't matter what the third person wants. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are.
Oh god, no. That, if anything, that's just going to cause more trouble.
I just don't even think about the
If they have their own
person at all.
desires and concerns.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't
And
even bring that
consent.
into the conversation. Why would you? That's just blasphemous right there.
Honestly, it's a problem, is what it is.
I mean, God, we can't go thinking about 3 people and they're all of their needs and making sure they're all having a good time. I mean, God, like, how long do you think it takes to do BDSM?
Oh, and then they got to all do their makeup and get ready. My gosh. How are men expected to cope?
sometimes they have men-only days, women-only days, and swinger days. I mean, I guess it's better that they have that. I don't know.
I mean, I would
I'm
assume
still
like
not
men
about
only
it.
days like strongly correlates with gay men, but
Yeah, that could be confusing for the men who aren't gay, and then they
They're
want
just
to
like-
make something that's real gay. I don't know.
you wanna do some bro DSM.
BDSM. Oh my god, that's definitely a thing. Um. Any tips for tummy aches as part of sub drop? It's been 2 days and my energy and morale are fine, but my stomach is still fucked up apparently. Is that common? I wouldn't say. Have you ever met anybody who's had that?
I
wouldn't.
mean, I know like stomach upset is often emotional in nature, so
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I'd actually be interested to hear why they thought the stomach issue was related to subdrop, because there can like I mean it could just be kind of a coincidence, you know?
That's true. I mean,
Because I guess what I'm saying is like, what about your tummy ache tells you it's due to subdrop, and that may help us like sort of understand, is it like an emotionally empty feeling? Because that shit can be pretty common.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I've ever personally experienced like I like stomach aches in general. I've not really experienced. I think I've maybe had it like once or like I don't have that happen very often. Like even when I have things that like my digestive system doesn't enjoy, I deal with things other than stomach aches because of that. Um, I guess I would go back to what Mr. Tech said and like what about it makes you think that it's related to subdrop as opposed to something you ate recently. And then I would think about what your diet has been and then been like, has this been a good diet for me? Has this been a lot of dairy products? Has this been not a lot of water? Has this been way too much caffeine? Uh, I mean, unless you're thinking, unless you know it's purely a psychosomatic symptom as opposed to like something I ate has caused this thing to happen.
Or were you just like upside down in a suspension for too long for your body?
But like that, I feel like would be less like it's been 2 days and my stomach is still fucked up apparently. Like if it was immediately after the scene, if it's like, hey, I did a scene 6 hours ago and my stomach feels upset, I would like that would make sense. But 2 days later causing that feeling, I'm less inclined. Like it feels like maybe there's some pent up anxiety energy. Maybe that's like
that was kind of my initial thought. Is it's like an anxious feeling. But if they're saying like everything else emotionally feels fine, then the question is, where is the source? Where's it coming from?
Where's the source? And if you really don't know, talk to a doctor. Like if you're experiencing something that isn't easily explained, like it better safe than sorry. And I mean, it's probably easier if you don't live in the United States to follow this advice. But like, if it's like 3 days and you're still experiencing stomach ache, or if it's increasingly getting worse as opposed to better, like, don't like be ashamed to see a doctor. Like you don't have to explain. It's like I think this is a part of subdrop. You just say I have had a stomach ache for 3 days and I don't know why. Because what's great is like figuring out when something's wrong with you before it's too late to fix it and then having an answer for it. Because if you wait, it gets worse and worse and worse, then it's like, you don't want to be immobilized on day 4 and being like, oh my god, my stomach hurts so bad. Because, like, I mean, I don't know. I guess the only thing I could think of is that there is maybe, like, impact play around the kidneys that might...
Maybe play around the kidneys, or maybe, like, punching around the, like chest or
abdomen.
something. The other thing, anal sex can upset people's tummies if they're not regularly used to
like an exchange of maybe, like, gut flora, maybe. That might...
Or just, like, it just kind of applies pressure in areas that are around your stomach, and you may have pulled or stretched something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and at least I can tell the difference between like when I'm sore in my abs.
Yeah.
from play, from like having to work my core in a suspension versus like a stomach ache from something internal in my organs feeling upset. But that's like one of the important things about BDSM is like being able to be in touch with like different bodily feelings. You know what I mean?
Narcissist? No, wait, it's smelling.
Nocioception?
Well, there's like
no, there's a different word for that.
There's like the ability. Guess what? You have more than 5 senses. So whenever you see like somebody who's like, I'm psychic, I have a sixth sense. It's like, yeah, everybody has like a sixth and an 18th sense. Like one of them is your ability to sense pain, and I'm trying to remember what that's called. It is evading my mind.
I know I have people comment on my videos all the time. Actually, that's called blah blah blah. And I'm like, the reason why I don't use the psychobabble term for that is because I want my videos to be accessible to everybody who hasn't been able to take a Psych 101 class in college. I'm sorry. I know what it is. I took those classes. Doesn't mean that Joe Blow, who's 55 and graduated from welding school, who's watching my videos, know what the fuck that means. And I'd rather not talk over people's heads, which is why I don't use the fancy words for things. I use the lay people term for things because I'm not about to be posturing on that. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's go back to the questions.
He does not mix flex and sex. You know.
That's probably true.
No flex in the sex.
My Dom is my husband, and I just started in BDSM, and we both want it outside the bedroom. We are, however, raising our 2 grandchildren, and we're not sure about how I should address him outside the bedroom. I mean, I guess, like, it's different when, like, if you have 2 grandchildren who are under the age of 4 versus, like, grandchildren who are teenagers. Like, I feel like those are all, like, it depends on how old the kids are and, like...
And culturally,
and, like,
the expectations are.
Yeah, the expectations are. Like, if it's... Like, it's easier if it's what you've always been around him, because then you can pass it off as, like, oh, this is just their little, like, pet nicknames for each other. I really, like... There's a lot of, like... Okay. So, pretty much any title that you can think of, including pet names, can be used in a dominant or submissive way if that's what you decide it means for your relationship. So if you decide dear or honey or love or whatever is like your partner's dom name, then that gets to be their dom name. It doesn't necessarily have to match like our typical stereotype of like sir or master or whatever. If it's important for you to be able to use those words, then like I don't honestly see how you're going to be able to get around calling your husband master around a 15-year-old grandchild, or even younger than that. Because what you really don't want to have happen is like my grandma calls grandpa master like during like just talking to another kid on the playground in like 2nd grade, because that's going to get you a call home, I'm sure, at some point. Like,
I mean, not in the U.S., but I don't know.
It depends on where and who heard it. Because I'm not necessarily thinking about, like, a teacher doing that directly. I'm thinking about grandchildren tells their friend goes home and tells their parents, the parent freaks out and calls the teacher and is like, oh my god, freaking out, my son does blah, 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 and then, like, it's a whole,
I see that as less of a risk of just being, like, an awkward conversation.
Yeah. Well, are you saying that wouldn't be an awkward conversation?
No, I mean, it's not. What I'm saying is I don't foresee a situation where a parent is going to get called because they heard that they refer to their significant other as master.
Yeah. Like, I think... Okay.
Not in our culture. Possibly other ones. I can see that being problematic in other ones.
They are 2 and 3. I mean, I think advice for that would, there's a really good podcast called Loving BDSM, and they have like mixed ages of children. They're from a previous marriage that the submissive was in before she met her dominant, and then they got married and they have a combined household now. And I think his children were older and already raised. So they, his children are well out of the house by this point. But they have a couple episodes where they've talked about like raising kids while being kinky, and considering the fact that like I don't have kids and I'm not like intimate friends with anybody who does have kids and is having to deal with that type of thing in like a 24/7 dynamic. I might go and check out some of their episodes where they've talked about that. I think the book Living MS also talks about it quite a bit. They have a few sections where they've discussed like being BDSM while also like and being in a 24/7 relationship specifically, while having children of various age ranges. So I would probably go with those. I would say, it's hard to know what to do, but like that's childcare in general. I think is like, oh, what do we do with these small humans? We don't want to fuck them up. Or hopefully, maybe that's something along the lines of what you're thinking. But I don't like. It's not something that I have any personal experience with, so I don't really necessarily have any personal insight on like how to make that work necessarily. But maybe some of those sources can help you kind of figure out something that might work for you. Oh, for the tummy ache thing, somebody mentioned the ulcers. I guess that could happen. I thought that like stress ulcers were a myth, though.
Yeah.
It's sort of like saying you can catch a flu from being in the rain.
Again, like, I don't know, it's one of those things where we're not talking about like medical stuff because neither of us
exactly
have like medical background. Like, and honestly, it's like, if I tell somebody, oh, it's like probably ulcers, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and B, there's no takeaways for them on that. There's nothing that they can be like, oh, okay, so here's what I need to change. So, anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry.
Getting sleepy?
Yeah.
Eating up by the fire?
Do you have any advice for a late bloomer, do you have any advice for late bloomer virgins who are interested in pursuing a subdom relationship? I feel like being a virgin doesn't really matter, at least not around here. Like, I wouldn't say that in any conversations I've ever had with anybody, like, I don't think the question of are you a virgin has ever come up in any conversation I've ever had about BDSM. People obviously talk about like sex, and like you'll see sex happen in BDSM spaces if that's allowed in that area. So I think maybe like
you don't
mentally
really
prepare for that, but you don't have to participate in it. And being a virgin or not doesn't really matter when it comes to being able to do BDSM or not. I think kind of what gets tangled up in that is like relationship experience, but like you can also have relationships that don't have any sex in them at all ever, and that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing, and that's how people do relationships. So I think, like, first of all, virginity is a bullshit concept, and it's literally made up, and it means nothing. So like I would honestly just let go about worrying about being a virgin or not, because it doesn't really matter. What I would think about more is like, what's my emotional preparedness for being in a power exchange relationship? And I think that becomes a much more important or like easy to answer. Like, that's actually a question that has like an answer behind it versus like, How can I do BDSM if I'm a virgin? It doesn't matter if you're a virgin or not. What matters is, are you emotionally prepared for intense relationship experiences? And there are people who have never been in relationships before, who have spent 20 years reading about it and introspecting on what their needs are and having fulfilling friendships and developing their own hobbies and all of that good stuff. And there are people who have never not been in a relationship since they were 14 who have terrible coping skills, who don't know how to talk about what their needs are, who don't even really know why they're doing what they're doing. So what's more important, I think, is like just learning how to be introspective and observe what your own needs and wants and feelings are. Learning how to communicate that to other people, which you don't need to have experience in romantic relationships to know how to do. It's just communication with people in the world, be that friends or family or coworkers or anybody. You can cultivate that skill without having to have to be in romantic or sexual relationships. Learning how to stick up for your values and learning how to communicate to people when you feel boundaries have been crossed, i.e., not being a doormat, and just kind of taking things slowly and not just diving right in and not allowing yourself to be kind of pushed in directions that make you feel really uncomfortable. But yeah, I guess just to summarize, destroy the concept of virginity, practice introspection, and don't worry about it too much. That ends.
Oh yeah, nice.
Like I think a lot of people get worried about virginity because it's like a really big concept in like vanilla society, like in terms of importance. Like it's like being a virgin or not. Like it simultaneously has this concept of purity, but also inexperience that simultaneously makes you valuable and invaluable in relationships. And because people think that BDSM is all sex, that means, oh, well, if I don't know anything about sex, then I'm not going to know how to do BDSM, and that's not true. Because most BDSM that people do in a community setting at play parties doesn't actually involve any kind of sexual contact. So it does. You don't need to know how to have a penis in your vagina or a dildo in your butthole or anything like that to know how to have like a good scene or how to negotiate or how to stick up for what your needs are or how to use a safe word. They're only the tangentially related in the most indirect ways. It really really doesn't matter.
I would say along the lines of what earlier what we were talking about, like um, engaging, like if you are a virgin and you're new to BDSM, like don't like think twice about like having super sexual scenes right to start off with. It's like one of those where you want to like
Yeah.
you want to make sure like you understand like how you process them individually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like that's the theme of like tonight's
Yeah.
stream is
Take
like
it slow. Take it slow.
is like don't
bro.
layer the complicated things together when you don't have experience doing either one yet. Like
Yes.
I was DMing at a party a couple weeks ago. That was for, it wasn't necessarily specifically for newbies, but it was a type of party that newbies felt comfortable going to. And there was somebody who was negotiating for a scene. They had a fuck saw there, basically. And the new person wanted to try the fuck saw because they saw somebody else use it. And then the person was negotiating with them for like using it, and the new person, like when they brought up like, okay, what are your aftercare needs? They were like, what's aftercare? And it's like, oh, okay, we're not ready for this now. Like, you don't, like, people have done it. People have done very sexual scenes as their first scenes in public, and it's all been fine and good. But if you don't really know what the basic terminology is, and you don't have, like, pre-planned things for, like, what your aftercare needs might be, or, like, kind of any understanding of how you might feel after doing something, like, probably not the best idea to, like, have that be your first scene ever. Like, because that can bring up a lot of complicated and unexpected emotions. Like it's not just sex. Maybe for some people it is, but for most people it usually is a little bit more than that, particularly when it's in a public setting where a lot of people are going to be watching you do it.
It's not uncommon to like have a complete like change in your sexual like process, like once you've changed the context it's in.
Goodness gracious, what is happening?
Hi, dude. Hello. Awesome. Thank you.
It's even louder in real life if you can't imagine that. So I think this is a good time to maybe wrap up the stream. So just some like quick little things to wrap up the stream here. The next book club book got announced. There's a link for more information down in the description box. We are going to be reading Playing Well with Others by Lee Harrington and William Williams. It's $2 for an ebook version, so it's super cheap. If you want to join the book club, details are down below. I have a new photo shoot for this month that is all about gags. That's also on Patreon. And I also have a brand new photo, which is like, not a brand new photo, a brand new Patreon exclusive video. That's like a little self-play tutorial thing. So if that interests you, links are down there. Go check it out. It's good stuff. And then I also have one slot available currently for one-on-one chats on Patreon. So if you want to like have more in-depth discussions, if you want to have a direct voice chat or a direct video chat, that is over on Patreon. Again, I currently have one slot available. It's for 30 minutes a month. It's $25. So if you'd like to do something like that, you can check out the link in the description box below to join Patreon. It's patreon.com/MeLupine. That's me. And yeah, that's what I got going on.
What if people want to wear you?
What?
Did you mention shirts? Do you have new shirts?
Oh, they have Teespring too. I don't have new designs yet though.
Those are coming.
Those are later. I've got to do a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Never heard Corgi get so vocal. He saves it all for when the doorbell rings. That's the only time.
Hated enemy.
Most hated enemy is the doorbell. What do you think he would stop doing that if we didn't have a doorbell? Like if people just knocked? No, because he doesn't when people just come to the door. Oh, now I have tinnitus. And I just went away.
From the Corgi?
Yeah, I just had it for a second. That was weird.
Just a little ringing.
Ring. Maybe it was my spaceship trying to phone me.
I think it is probably something trying to get your attention.
Alrighty. Yeah, I think we're gonna be done for today. hopefully everybody enjoyed the conversation. And we will be back again next Friday at 6. Schedule the next couple weeks might be kind of weird because I'm going to be at Kinkfest in the next 4 weeks. And so I don't think I'm going to be live streaming Friday night because that's like the first night of the parties and the event. And so I'll probably be busy doing that. So I don't know if we're going to do another stream at a different time or like how it's going to work. We'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. We're going to work around it. And yeah, bye bye. Thank you guys for being here. And I'll see you next week. Bye.